Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Just Georgian Show. I'm your host Georgian, and in today's episode I'm going through my favourite Resident Evil games. I'm ranking them from number 11 to number 1. Now these are just the ones that I've played, but I've ruled out Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 because I don't think of them as a mainline game. I think of them as like a side game to the mainline games, so I have not ranked them. If I was to probably rank them, they would probably be out of 13 rather than out of 11, probably within the top 13, so it'd be like 13, 12 or 11. I'd put them there most likely. I enjoyed playing them, but I didn't really feel as affinity to them as I did for the other games that are on this list. So these are all ones that I've played on the channel. So that does make it, very unique because you've actually seen me play these games. So yeah, I'm actually doing an episode with you guys in person about gaming rather than actually playing a game and talking to you at the same time. So I hope everyone's doing okay before we start. I'm currently in my office. We finish at 4 o'clock on a Friday, so it's just gone 4 o'clock. It's about 5 past 4. So I'm still in the office, but I'm doing a video for the next half an hour, 20 minutes or so for your entertainment. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this one. So let's start off, shall we? Let's go through the rules of how I've got to my listing. So I've based it off of the story of the actual game itself, the gameplay, the replayability, which I think is very important, the characters, so who you actually play as and who who are the antagonists, who are the protagonists, and then also the enemy type and the music in the game, which I think, yeah, again, is another important aspect. I think replayability and music's a big factor in the ranking on this. Hopefully you'll see that as we go through this video. But yes, so in at number 11, I've put the Resident Evil 3 remake. So that came out in 2020. Obviously, it follows the story of Jill Valentine as she escapes Raccoon City. I've put that as number 11. It was the second Resident Evil game I played after Resident Evil 2 remake that came out in 2019. And the quality difference between that game and Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remake was quite a jump, I thought. I've put it as a 6 out of 10 overall. I thought the story was okay. The actual enemy type in terms of Nemesis, obviously because the original game is called Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, I think Nemesis is really underutilized in the remake, and obviously we'll get to Resident Evil 3, the original, later on in this video. But yeah, and the music I didn't think was that great, and you couldn't change the soundtrack, whereas in Resident Evil 2 remake you can change the soundtrack back to the 1998 classic. So it did, for me, that wasn't that great. Obviously, as a character, Jill Valentine was one of my favourites, so yeah, there wasn't nothing wrong about that. And replayability, I don't really find it a game that I'll enjoy playing again in, like I say, a couple of times a year or every other year sort of thing. So yeah, I've put that as number 11. Number 10, coming in at number 10, is RE Village, so Resident Evil Village. It's the 8th game in the series. I enjoyed playing this game. It was a mixture of the game prior to that, Resident Evil 7, in the horror aspect, but then it was also trying to be a bit more ambitious with the more, let's say, action-orientated version of the game, like Resident Evil 4. You play as Ethan Winters, as you do in Resident Evil 7 as well. It's in first person, but then they did give you an option later down the line to do a third person version of it. They did come out on PS4, but then they made a PS5 upgrade, like enhanced version as well, which I played on the channel. So yeah, I did like Village. Obviously, characters wise, I think actually the villains of the game are better than the actual main player you play as in Ethan Winters. Didn't really care much for Ethan in this game, or as Mia. Obviously you're trying to find your daughter who's been kidnapped. Obviously Lady Dimitrescu, that's terrible, I've probably said that wrong, but the big lady with the hat and the claws, the really big lady, she's about 7 foot or something in the game. I think she's even taller than that. She was like an iconic character from that game, and then the other villains were pretty good as well. But yeah, the one that's like a doll like gave you the horror aspect, which was pretty cool. I ranked it at 10, and I gave it a 6.5 rating. I think it's probably more replayable than Resident Evil 3 Remake. The enemy types though, quite lacking really, in my opinion. I think you know, it's like not even zombies either. They're sort of like wolves, and yeah, that I didn't find it that great. So I thought the enemy type was lacking in that game. Coming in at number 9, now this is going to be probably a little bit controversial, but I put in Resident Evil Code Veronica. Now I've not played this game on the channel, so that's why it's A up at number 9, and B, you know, I haven't played it because I'm about to explain why I haven't played it. It's a very difficult game. Now you can do this glitch where you have unlimited health, but the reason why I haven't played the game on my channel is because the infinite health thing I feel is cheating way too much. You know, you're not having to pick up certain resources because you're literally got infinite health. I just don't think it's fair to play that game with infinite health. And if you play it just normally, it's a very difficult game. And I just thought I can't really see myself enjoying playing it in front of an audience. You know, I'd want to just turn it off if I just kept dying and things like that. So, but the story of Resident Evil Code Veronica is that you play as Chris and Claire Redfield. You play as Claire mainly, but you play as Claire and Chris Redfield. And yeah, you're out on an island. They are making a remake of the game, thankfully, in 2027, so next year. So I'm really looking forward to playing that. So that will definitely get played on the channel. But yeah, I love the music of the game. The characters are okay. Obviously, Chris and Claire are classic, but then the other character around them, Albert Wesker makes a sort of appearance, but yeah, they're not that memorable in my opinion anyway. The story I do like. The gameplay is tank controls, so I like the original 1, 2, 3. So it's the last game that used the tank controls, if you don't class Resident Evil 1 remastered as a new game. I guess it's the old game remastered, but yeah. So yeah, I enjoy playing Code Veronica, but I haven't played it on the channel, so I did sneak that one in there. I gave it a 7 out of 10 overall because of the story, the gameplay and the music. The safe room music, A Moment of Relief, is really... Is it A Moment of Relief? I think it's called A Moment of Relief. Yeah, I think it's called A Moment of Relief. Very good song. If you haven't listened to that, give it a little listen. It's like 1 minute 50 seconds and you can just listen to it on loop. Coming in at number 8, so we're on number 8 now of the list, is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Now this is the first game back after Resident Evil 6, which I haven't played on the channel, and it was back to its horror elements, so it was very horror atmosphere inspired, so which I did enjoy playing. The story is really good. When you first play it, you play as Ethan Winters, who was obviously the protagonist of Resident Evil Village, which came in at number 10 on our rankings. So yeah, this one is coming in at number 8, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, and you are searching for your wife Mia. I did play this on the channel as well. I thought the enemy type's a bit lacking. Like, all it is the moulded, very meh. The boss battles are pretty good actually against the Baker family. The music's decent, quite atmospheric, but not that memorable in my opinion. And like I say, the characters, Ethan Winters and Mia Winters, I didn't really care too much for. Like, nowhere near the same lines as a Leon, a Claire, a Chris, a Jill, for example. Replayability, it's a hard one, because when it's like, when you first experience that horror, once you've played it already, you sort of like go back to it and you're like, oh, I know where the horror element's coming, I know that jump scare's coming, sort of thing. So yeah, but still a very good game. I ranked it a 7 out of 10 as well. I rated it 7 out of 10, sorry. I ranked it at 8 on our list. Coming in at number 7 is the game I just recently played on the channel, is Resident Evil Requiem. Now I rated this an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really decent story, playing as Grace Ashcroft. Obviously, characters wise, you've got Leon on there as well. I think at this number, from 7, like in the ranking from 7 to number 1, every game is at least an 8 out of 10. So every game I'm now talking about is at a level where the quality's really good, in my opinion. So yeah, Requiem obviously came out this year. You play as Grace, Ashcroft and Leon. Obviously so far we haven't had a DLC for the game, so if the DLC is very good, it might bump up on my rankings from like where it is now, 7th, to maybe, you know, 5th, 6th, 4th even. We'll see. It'll be very hard to get into like the top 3, but yeah, I did enjoy playing it. Obviously just recently played on the channel. You play in first person and third person, which I think is a nice touch. The music's decent. It claws back a lot, the whole game itself really, not just the music, but it claws back to a lot of the older games. Like the music sounds very Resident Evil 7. The characters obviously using Leon, who's best known for 2 and 4. The enemy types, you know, the lickers, the classic zombies. You know, even Victor Gideon being a tyrant, that's like clawing back to Resident Evil 1, 2 and 3. So yeah, it pays a lot of homage to the older games, and I think it's a great addition to the Resident Evil catalogue of games. Replayability, yeah, it's definitely got replayability because it uses the horror elements but also the action elements as playing as Leon. You know, you never feel like Leon's under too much threat, whereas you always feel like Grace is just one wrong move away from getting grabbed by a zombie, or you know, the child. Is she called the child? The stalker enemy in Requiem. I think she's called the child, but yeah, yeah, the girl. Is it called the girl? So yeah, I really enjoy playing Requiem. So that's in at number 7, and number 6 is going to be Resident Evil 2, the original game, so the 1998 game. Now, why it's ranked so high up for me is because I believe Resident Evil 2 Remake is just the same game but just made much better. Obviously Resident Evil 2 is a quality game. I'll go more into Resident Evil 2 when I get to where I've ranked Resident Evil 2 Remake, but yeah, obviously the original game, without the original game you don't get Resident Evil 2 Remake, which I think is one of the best remasters, remakes, whatever you want to call it. I think remake is the right word. Remastered would be most of the elements of the original game still in there, whereas remake is a sort of like little, like it hits all the same notes but in a different sort of way. You know, it's not beat for beat. But yeah, I really enjoyed Resident Evil 2 original. I've only played it, I've not played it on the channel, so it's another one that I haven't played on the channel, but I have discussed in my own head, which I do most of my thinking, is playing that soon on the channel. Obviously you've seen me play Resident Evil 2 Remake, so you get a feel of that game anyway, but yeah, the music, the atmosphere, everything. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 original, obviously fantastic game. Tank controls rather than the remake is not tank controls, and obviously it's the fixed camera angles rather than, you know, the over the shoulder camera angle which is in Resident Evil 2 Remake. But yeah, the original is a masterpiece, you know, of a game. Probably better than Resident Evil 1, the original as well. Which leads me nicely to what I've ranked at number 5, which is Resident Evil 1 Remastered. Now, why I emphasise the word remastered is because Resident Evil 1 wouldn't even make my list, but the Resident Evil Remaster is so good that I've put it in at number 5. You can play obviously as Jill or Chris. I've only done it as Jill on the channel, but yeah, you can play as Chris, and it's just, yeah, it's a phenomenal game. The atmosphere is great, the music's great, fixed camera angle, tank controls, just everything the first game had, but just so much better. Yeah, like I've played the first one and it does feel dated in a way, which sounds rude to say, but yeah, the Resident Evil 1 Remaster, which even came out 24 years ago, still massively holds up now. It came out in 2002. It's a quality game. I really enjoy playing it. Playing it on the channel was really good as well. The enemy types, if we're going through the list of what makes up my ranking, I gave it an 8.5, the Resident Evil 1 Remaster. The story's really good, Spencer Mansion, atmospheric. Gameplay, like I just said, fixed camera angle, very good. Replayability, you can play as Chris or Jill. You know, you can take your pick of which side you want to do it. Characters, just mentioned. Enemy type, you've got hunters, you've got dogs, you've got, even snakes are an enemy on the game. You've got spiders, you've got the tyrant, you know. You've got boulders coming at you and you have to run quickly to get past them, you know. I love the game. I think it's great. So yes, Resident Evil 1 Remastered is coming in at number 5. At number 4, an 8.5 as well, I've ranked Resident Evil 3, the original. Now, in my opinion, it's the best fixed camera angle game / tank control game of all of the Resident Evil games. Which I mean by that is that it takes them elements of, it's the best use of the fixed camera angle and the tank controls. It's the most action orientated. I love Jill Valentine as like the main character of the game. The music's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Free From Fear, the safe room theme for Resident Evil 3 is fantastic. Nemesis makes the game. I think if you didn't have Nemesis, or you had the version of Nemesis that I ranked at number 11 at the start of this video, if you had that version of Nemesis in Resident Evil 3 original, it would be nowhere near the top ranking, coming in at number 4. But Nemesis is so good in that game. It makes you feel like you go out of one door and he's going to be there, or you go down that alleyway, he's going to be there. He's the best stalker enemy of any of the Resident Evil games. You know, he's better than Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. He's better than Jack Baker from Resident Evil 7. He's better than the girl, or the kid, where we called her, from Resident Evil Requiem. You know, he is, yeah, Nemesis is a quality character, and you obviously get rewarded for taking him down. You get, like, you know, gun parts, which is quality, custom gun parts. So I thoroughly enjoyed playing that on the channel as well. Not too long ago, I think, Resident Evil 3 original. So, moving on, we are now in the top 3. Now, from this moment onwards, we've got a 9, a 9.5 and a 9.5 rating out of the list of rankings I've done. But what makes my not my rankings, what makes my rating. So ranking wise, coming in at number 3 is Resident Evil 4 the original. So that was the one that came out on PS2, GameCube, etc. Now that game, why it's at number 3 and not at number 2 or 1 is because I think the remake, like Resident Evil 2 original into Resident Evil 2 remake, I think the remake is better than the original. And I think the difference between how good the original of Resident Evil 2 is to Resident Evil 2 remake isn't as big, is bigger than the difference between Resident Evil 4 original and Resident Evil 4 remake, hence why this is the first time you've heard the words Resident Evil 4. I think it's one of the best games, let alone just Resident Evil games, one of the best games ever made. Resident Evil 4 original is phenomenal. With the camera angle, it's not fixed camera angle, but when you're running as Leon, if you want to shoot an enemy, you have to stay in the spot you're firing in, which makes it more horror and more like quickly, but then replaying it is rather annoying sometimes, having to like fire like that. It's not like a hindrance or anything, I'm not saying it like that, I'm just saying I prefer being able to move backwards when I'm shooting, or like move to the side, or you know, but it's a very like small minute thing. But the ability to like find items in the environment to then sell to the merchant, bringing in the whole merchant thing. Obviously, I haven't mentioned this in any of the other games, but obviously there is a version of the merchant in Requiem, in Village, but this game, excuse me, the merchant is like the best version of it all time. It's the first one and it's the best one. Like being able to upgrade guns, being able to sell guns, being able to buy guns, being able to find guns in the game, and then you can then sell them or keep them, deciding whether to do it. For replayability, you can go, right, I'm going to do just handguns run or just shotguns run. It's fantastic. The story-wise, love it. President's daughter gets kidnapped. Okay, you got me hooked straight away. And it's not zombies this time. Oh, they're a parasite controlled cult in Spain. And you're like, well, it doesn't actually say it in Spain. It says it in Europe, but it's pretty much saying it's Spain. And they're speaking Spanish as well in this place. So, yeah, I don't think it's ever said it's in Spain. I don't think so anyway. Someone can let me know. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 remake and the original, quality games. I just put the original at number 3 and not Resident Evil 4 remake. yeah, but still quality games. In terms of gameplay, like I said, the control for the shooting is a little bit off, but everything else fantastic. Replayability I've already spoken about. Characters, Leon Kennedy's the best character throughout all the Resident Evil games, and he features in these last 3 games as well. So Ada Wong as well is in it. Separate Ways is good, although we'll get to it, but Separate Ways, I prefer it more in the remake. You also had Mercenaries mode, which is in both the games. And obviously Ashley Graham. I know a lot of people hate on Ashley Graham. I think she's more annoying in Resident Evil 4 original, but in the remake I think she's really cool character to have as like a side character, because you're not with Ashley Graham the whole time. And the whole protecting her thing, like, you know, that she has a health bar and like she can get grabbed by an enemy or attacked by an enemy. I think that's really cool because it adds to like the difficulty element of it as well, because you as Leon Kennedy, you can just go bam, 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 but she is really vulnerable. One attack and she's dead. So you're like, oh no. So you have to play a bit more strategically rather than just going in there and smash everything in sight with your shotgun or with your Red 9 or with your Killer 7. So yeah, I love Resident Evil 4. Enemy type, there's so many good enemy type and boss battles as well. Even like when you first saw Dr. Salvador with that chainsaw and it's just straight through. Oh, quality. Yeah, Resident Evil 4 is fantastic. What a game. Obviously Resident Evil 4 is comprised of 3 areas of the game. So you've got the village, you've got the castle, and then you've got the island. Now, in the original, I prefer do I prefer the castle more in the original? It's a tough one. I do like the castle in the original. I think in the remake though, the village and the island is more expanded out, and it feels more it feels better. Sorry, I was just checking to see if someone wanted this room, but they don't. I think most people have gone home now because we finish at 4 o'clock. But yeah, as I was saying, I definitely feel like the areas in Resident Evil 4 remake are just being expanded upon better. But yeah, both quality games, but in number 3 will be Resident Evil 4 original. Now, number 2, this was a hard choice for me between which is number 1 and which number 2. I've actually put Resident Evil 2 remake as number 2, 9.5 rating out of 10. Storyline, I love it. Obviously, it's Raccoon City, the best environment for a Resident Evil game in my opinion. You can play as Leon or Claire, my favourite male and female character in the game. Quality. It's the first game I ever played as well. I think I've mentioned this time and time again, but I'm going to say it again anyway. Back in 2019, I can't remember what month, but I went to Tesco's with my friend Sam, who's been on this channel, my best mate Sam, and we went there, and I didn't even plan to buy it. I just went up the staircase and went, oh, Resident Evil 2, I've heard this is pretty good. I've heard of Resident Evil games before then, but I've never played them before because I wasn't really a fan of horror games. I never played a horror game since Resident Evil, really. And then now I love them. But I picked it up and I was like, I'm going to give this a go. Took it home, loved it, fell in love with it straight away. And I was like, where's all the other games? I want to play them. So yeah, Resident Evil 2 remake, fantastic. Replayability, as I said previously, you can play as Leon or you can play as Claire. That gives you replayability. Difficulty levels, obviously every game has it, but you know, playing it on standard or hardcore or Inferno, some of it's called, or Nightmare, yeah, like the hardest difficulties. Yeah, it's just a quality game overall. The music, I want to just mention the music quickly. Secure Place is my favourite. When I think I played it before, I let it just play out for a little while because it was so good. But yeah, Secure Place is my favourite safe room music of the game, of any of the games. Enemy type, you've got the Tyrant, you've got dogs, you've got Tyrant being Mr. X, you've got the Lickers, dogs, normal zombies. I must say, on Resident Evil 1 remake as well, or remaster, sorry, the Crimson Heads makes it very challenging as well, with the fact that if you don't explode their head or set them on fire, the enemies can come back and be like stronger than they were before you put them down. That makes it very unique as well for the enemy types. I just wanted to circle back to there. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 remake, unbelievable game. I could play that game once every 4 to 6 months and I wouldn't be bored. I love that game. Yeah, I could play it 3 times a year and wouldn't be bored. And then finally, because I have rabbited on a long time and I can see we're on 24 minutes already, which has been great, like talking about Resident Evil. I can talk about it for ages. But yeah, number 1 is Resident Evil 4 Remake. To me, it's just everything about Resident Evil 4, the original, but just slightly better, slightly enhanced. Separate Ways, I think, is a quality game. As a DLC, it's probably one of the best DLCs of all time, just from DLCs that I've bought in the past. It's a quality DLC. Playing as Ada Wong. Yeah, Resident Evil 1 remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, sorry, is the number 1 Resident Evil game for me. I rate it 9.5. I love everything about that game. It is fantastic. The story, as I mentioned, battling the Las Plagas, the character Leon Kennedy, just quality. I like that you have more interactions with Hunnigan in the game as well. Just as a little side note, Hunnigan is the person that Leon's talking to in his ear, in his microphone, when he's trying to track down where Ashley is throughout the game, Ashley Graham. And also, obviously, in Resident Evil Requiem, Leon's talking on the microphone to Sherry Birkin, who is the little girl in Resident Evil 2. So, yeah, I do like them little interactions that he has with them, because obviously, in Resident Evil 4, when you're not with Ashley, because you haven't found her yet, or that you get separated, it's nice that he has an interaction with someone. I also like Luis as well, Luis Serra. He's a good character in Resident Evil 4, and I think he's better in the remake than he is in the original. That could be debated, but yeah, I love Resident Evil 4 and 2. That would be my 2 games that I would say they are my favourite 2 games. I think if I'm saying what's the better combo between Resident Evil 2 remake and original versus Resident Evil 4 remake and original, it's definitely Resident Evil 4 for me. Resident Evil 4 is the best Resident Evil game of all time. It does a good blend of horror and action. It does that blend better than Village, than Requiem, than any of the other Resident Evil games, then 3, Nemesis. It's a quality game, and I could play that game probably once every 2 months. Resident Evil 4. If you look at my amount of hours played on my PS5 on Resident Evil 4, it's the most one, because I've played that game time and time again. I have finished the game with professional difficulty as well, which was quite tough. I might do a professional difficulty run on my channel. It is very tough on professional, but I do enjoy playing the game. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. I definitely enjoyed going through the games again and trying to rank them into a list, but I think my ranking system I'm quite happy with. So and how I've got to this ranking using the rating it out of 10 and then ranking them after that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Me just blabbering on about Resident Evil for the last 27 minutes. Take care of yourselves. As this video is going out, I am doing another episode of the Just All Jan show today. Today being the 3rd of July, and it's going to be Pragmata on my channel. So this episode will actually be airing probably not on Friday. I'm not going to probably do 2 videos in one day, so I'm probably going to space them out. So I'll probably play Pragmata tonight and then release this video on either Saturday or Sunday. So yeah, take care of yourself, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.